Welcome to Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Shipp, and I'm excited to be sharing with you my life with a son on the spectrum. This podcast is for anyone who is looking for quick tips and perspective, but most of all, for hope and inspiration. So sit back, relax, and let's put the pieces together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Shipp. Thank you so much for joining us today. Last week, we had the pleasure of talking with Russ Solomon, who has a company called InTune Parents, and we are going to continue that conversation with him today because I have so many questions for Russ, but he is in the business of helping with parent wellness and creating harmonious family environments. And I just love this topic because this is something that we actively try to work on in our own home as a family. So, Russ, thank you again for being back on the show today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. For those of you listening in, if you did not get a chance to tune into last week's episode, please do. It was such a great, valuable conversation. I enjoyed all the conversation that we had, Russ, about just parenting and finding our inner harmony. And I just found it so insightful and helpful. So thank you so much again for that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah. So just to backtrack a little bit about last week, we kind of talked about how parents can find emotional balance while kind of managing everyday life. And I kind of wanted to segue into talking about strategies. So, what strategies do you suggest for parents to overcome unique challenges that they face raising children with special needs?
Okay. Yeah, that's a really important thing because as we were talking about last week, it's great to know about all these, that you have all these feelings and all that kind of stuff and a lot of things to deal with, but you need ways to deal with it and things to, how do you handle all these things, right? So I wanted to go back really briefly and just mention just a couple of sentences about what we talked about last week, just in case somebody didn't hear it for now, and I'll just be really brief about that. So one of the things when we're talking about our emotions and our stress is to understand what the root cause of the stress is. And so really briefly, I'll go back over that. What's important to understand is that although it feels like it, our stress doesn't come from the things that we have no control over in the world. It doesn't come from challenges that we have to face all the time or our daily chaos. It doesn't even come from our child's difficult behavior, right? The real reason that we are living with stress and overwhelmed so much is because we haven't learned how to be more in tune with ourselves to eliminate that stress, okay? So that's what this is all about. So I say that it's not really a stress and an overwhelm problem that we're dealing with. What we're dealing with, in my view, is something that I call the inner harmony problem. Okay. So if we are not in tune, if we don't have harmony within ourselves, then everything we do is going to be more stressful and all that stuff. So that's kind of, thanks for letting me go back to that. I just wanted to kind of frame that because it relates to the answer in terms of the strategies now. Right? Once you understand where the stress comes from now, cool, now I know what can I do about it. So that's this question. So this is going to sound crazy, but maybe I'm a little
it's
crazy.
All right. We like crazy. Just bring it.
But I hope that it will be received in the way that I mean to send it. So, of course. Before we talk about strategies, the first thing to do, in my view, again, is to make a decision on a very deep level that you want peace more than you want struggle. Right? Wow. Even if you don't know exactly how do I do that? What does that path look like? That's potentially where I might be able to help somebody is how do you do that, right? But the first thing is you got to decide that you want peace more than anything. That has to do with prioritizing yourself, right? As we talked about in the last episode, making your own peace a priority is not a big thing for parents because it's not a priority. It feels like a luxury. How do I have the luxury of time to work on myself when my kid needs me to show up right now? And there's so many intense emotions. Yes, that's important. Yes, you got to show up for them, of course. And as beautiful as putting their own needs ahead of yours is, and that's noble, it's beautiful, but you can't neglect yourself. And again, I'm not saying anything that people don't already know. People haven't heard that. Of course we have. But this comes from the first thing is I want peace. I want my peace more than I want my struggle. Right. That's the first thing. That does sound crazy because it's how. But if
But
you
we
don't make
talked
that,
last week too about having that choice, right? And I think choosing that and acknowledging that that is a choice for you is very profound.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's that is something that came to my mind when you were saying that right now was just we entering into that state of, yes, I'm choosing that I want peace more than I want stress or overwhelm.
You're making a conscious decision. I know you don't know what it looks like yet. We haven't talked about that yet, right? But it's like that needs to be there because one of the things we do to relieve stress, we go out, hair and nails, we get a massage, there's a million things that people do, right? That's cool. I'm not against that. I do that stuff, not hair and nails, but otherwise, I mean, that's fine, right? It's okay to do that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is those are, in a way, a little more superficial. They're not going to really address the deeper causes. And if you can go on a vacation, you can get respite care, let's say, and you go out, you come back. First of all, you're probably thinking of your kid the whole time, if you can relax at all. Yeah. Second thing is you come back. I mean, maybe not, but second thing, you come back and things are just as they were before you left, right? I mean, the vacation
nothing's
almost didn't
changed,
happen.
right?
If you can get away from your child, right. So, and it's good. Vacations are cool. If you can do it, that's great. But if that decision that I want my peace, that's my priority, is not there, it doesn't matter. That other stuff won't matter, right?
Right.
It won't do anything. So, so that's the first thing. And again, as I just explained, understanding what the root cause is so that you can take intentional, purposeful actions to tap into, I say, your inherent peace. That's the thing. So making a decision and then taking those actions that are going to let you, with awareness, with intention, with purpose, take those actions that are going to lead to your peace, right? So the key strategy with that in mind that I really recommend is learning how to let go of the things you can't control.
Right.
That's the strategy, because that's something that anybody can learn to do. Maybe you need some help and some guidance with that, sure. But there is a very specific technique that I think just about anybody can learn if you want to, which allows you to immediately eliminate stress through the practice of what I call peaceful letting go. So that you can center yourself, that you can connect with your clarity, you can access your wisdom, and that you can stay focused and peaceful in those chaotic or those stressful moments, right? By the way, just to quickly mention, I do talk a lot about this in a masterclass that I have, so we'd maybe not get into that too much here, but if anybody wants to know more about that, there's a specific technique that I didn't invent. I just teach it. I pass it along. I learned this when I was 9. That allows people, again, like we said last week, to get their nurturing in the moment, to handle their own emotions in a few seconds when things come up, so that you can stay physically active and do the things you need to do. Right? But you can do both. You don't have to neglect your own well-being and put in order to prioritize your child's, right? They can happen at the same time. That's what InTune Parents is about. That's what we teach about.
And it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I like the inner harmony piece, right? And finding those things. I didn't realize that I was out of alignment, so to speak, until it was kind of far gone. I think I got so caught up in the daily grind of caring for my son, making sure that the providers were set up, his appointments were set up, getting him to school, making sure he's going through, all of his after school care and all of those things that it's almost like it compounded over time. And then the stress and overwhelm kept getting more severe, right? And then you realize, oh my gosh, okay, I'm just like stuck in this state of mind consistently. And I don't think I really noticed that until much later. Like Drayson was diagnosed at age 3 and he's 12 now. And it wasn't honestly until a couple of years ago that I started noticing that. And started noticing that, I would feel guilty for taking an hour or two for myself and be so worried, texting my husband, checking in with the respite provider, whoever was watching Drayson, like, is everything okay? If we go on vacation, it takes me like 3 days just to decompress before I can even feel like I can come down off of that. And I started to realize that some of my emotional well-being was compounding in terms of the frustration or the stress, or just running in that constant state of stress mode. And so I think you bring up such a good point, because I also think it's important that the earlier you identify that, the I don't want to say easier it will become, but but not having such a severe amount of emotions compounding. Does that kind of make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you at any point when you identify this, you realize, oh wow, this is happening. Like, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's been years. Okay, so that's cool. So again, what else is possible? What would you like to do from now? Now that you know, that's good. What would you like to do about it?
Right.
It goes to the decision. So if now I know, you know what I need to do right now. My choice is peace. Is my I'm saying peace a lot, but we all have different names for it. But sometimes I say inner stillness, calm, focus. It's not a luxury. I think it's a tool. Let's say. I think it's a necessity for people. When we talk about how our kids pick up on what we're feeling, we can leverage that. We can leverage our own good mood for our family, but also just as a person, a human being, right? Wouldn't we rather feel more peaceful and centered, even and maybe especially when you're in a chaotic moment, or things are not just like the daily chaos of life, but in those particularly challenging moments, or that there's an IEP meeting coming up, or some kind of a therapy or doctor visit where may not be pleasant, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Then you can go in more peaceful and more centered.
Yeah. Especially if you've worked with some of the same providers before and there's been maybe tension or friction, right, on the care. Yeah. It's always hard to step back into that room because you're like, oh, what kind of pushback am I going to get? Or, you don't see eye to eye on certain things. And we've vetted a lot of our providers and even, Drayson's care and even where he goes to school for that very reason, because it's like, if I don't want to deal with it that way, how do I think he's dealing with it when he's going through his therapies and stuff? It's concerning. It becomes concerning for sure. So, can you share any success stories where parents applied some of the strategies and things that you've kind of talked about and have seen those positive changes in their lives?
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I work with a person named Megan, and Megan she is very cool. She is a mom of 3 little girls. And when we first met, her family and her lived with their in-laws. And so she told me that this was massively challenging for her. There were times when she felt like she was like really shutting down, that she was numb. She wasn't really present with her family. It was so much overwhelming. And on top of everything else of being a mom, which I don't know what that was like for her, but I had the sense of it. And then also having to live with her in-laws for whatever reason that was. So she didn't want to feel like she was numb and shutting down. She wanted to be present. She wanted to like authentically connect with the people in her life. So there's 2 quotes that are going to come from her. It's easier to tell the story from her perspective than from me. And they're quick. I'm going to read them.
Of course.
So the first one is about what she was like kind of before we worked together, like what her life was like before we knew each other. So she said, I was struggling just to have patience. I was struggling to not fly off the handle when things were stressful. And I was feeling a lot of overwhelm, not really knowing how to step into a more empowered place. Yeah. So I think like what we just talked about, people are aware. We know how we're feeling generally, right? We know we don't like it sometimes. But like, how do I get more empowered? How do I do that?
Right.
So we worked together. She was someone like a perfect person to work with because she was aware of what her let's say problems were, what her challenges were, and she was open and eager for solutions. She was like, help me, So that's another important thing. Sometimes people are not open to the solution, and I can't help them then.
It has to be the choice. So,
of course. Do you want your peace? What do you want more? Even if you don't know how yet. Do you want to continue? If given the choice, would you choose to continue struggling or not? Right. And that does sound crazy because sometimes we don't realize there was a choice. So she learned this letting go technique that I'm talking about. And it takes a very short amount of time. Within a few weeks, she was really good at it. And then she noticed as she was applying this in her life and bringing this into her family life, bringing this technique into her daily life, I should say, she noticed that she was feeling lighter and happier. And that lighter, happier feeling had a ripple effect on her whole family. She was the rock of the family, I'm sure, like many moms are, right? Yeah. We're all looking to mom for that. So her emotional kind of home base kind of shifted. And that kind of, she noticed that, wow, there's more laughter. There's more, my husband, he's even more peaceful, right? And so her second quote is this one. This is now after having worked together. She says, I feel like my children have the me that I want to be for them. I feel like I can go to sleep at night not feeling guilty or like, oh, I shouldn't have said that or I shouldn't have yelled. I'm so calm now, and I feel like they are so calm. It's dropped the stress levels and the overwhelm for our whole family, my husband included. I like how she mentioned him. And I feel like I'm open and present and connected. Right.
Oh,
what really strikes me about that is my kids have the me that I want to be for them. That brought me to tears. That was like, she knew he was there. And she's like, help me get, so that was like such a powerful transition.
And I think that's so defining. And and Megan, if you're listening, that's an amazing testimony and story. And it's so amazing for her to be able to experience the difference in that, right? Because I think sometimes I'm like, I'm here. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, but did I really connect with Drayson? Did I really, I know I was there for the logistics of things, but I wasn't really there. When you identify that emotional state of it, it's so profound. So kudos to you, Megan, for all of the hard work that she's put forward. That's amazing. And and I hopefully Megan will listen to this show and she'll hear me say how proud I am of her as well.
Awesome. I'm gonna let her know about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, but it is very profound. And I'm sure you've heard plenty of other testimonies with parents that you've been working with that are similar, that it's just got to warm your heart that you're making that impact for them. And that it's so positive because it radiates, like you said, it's like a ripple effect, right? And we don't realize how much we influence others around us with the way we project things.
For sure. Not just at home as parents, right? But in our lives, at work, in our careers, and how we show up in the world as a person, right? Of course. I'm sure everyone has been around people that it just kind of feels good to be around them. Maybe they're your family or your friends, or maybe it's a stranger. You just kind of like sitting next to them for lunch one day for some reason. And it's just kind of like they have a good vibe, right? Yeah. We can feel that. We human beings can feel that. And so this whole thing about being in tune with yourself is just about leveraging that. First of all, learning how to get in tune with yourself, learning this peaceful process of letting go, or peaceful letting go, and sort of just letting that be who you are and radiate in the world while you show up in a strong, powerful way as you need to, without the struggle, without the fight against, your own internal fight against what is. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, not fighting the resistance of things, right? When we resist things, it becomes more of a fight or more of a conflict internally. And then that can radiate out into other aspects of our lives. I'm sure you've heard people like, I don't know why we're fighting so much, or I don't know why there's so much tension, but sometimes it's what we're also exhibiting. So, and I think, do you feel that there is, that we tend to sometimes ignore that intuitive sense of that when we're tapping into those emotions and those feelings? Do you feel that sometimes, I know I've almost ignored sometimes, and not deliberately, not intentionally, just the intuitive side of how I should be honoring how I step into that state of emotion? Sometimes I feel like I've ignored that because I'm too busy fighting or pushing against the resistance of it. Do you find that also has a play in things, that intuitive center of you to know how to accept that emotion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all have such a wide range of emotions. And so in even a deeper sense, the work that I do is not so much about teaching people how to do this or how to do things. It is kind of technically, but it's more about reminding them, and because there is that intuition, so I just kind of want to point like, hey, and then people, you already know. Yeah. They already do. Yeah. I mean, there's times where I'm like, deep down, I already know, but for whatever reason, I'll fight that or, not choose peace. I was going to say perhaps because you haven't yet decided
acknowledge that.
You want that, right? So, and then when you do, okay, I want peace. I don't know how to do that or what it's going to look like, but I know right now for me, I'm done with struggling. I'm sick of being sick and tired, right? Sick and tired of being sick and tired. So show me the path, show me how, right? But so when that's in place, then the universe will line up and conspire for you, right? Not against you.
For you. Absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to parents who are feeling overwhelmed and struggling, what would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. So be open to what else is possible besides the overwhelm and struggle, because it doesn't have to stay that way. Just because you may have been struggling for many years or your child's lifetime, it doesn't have to stay that way, right? Mm-hmm. You can transcend the stress and overwhelm, and you can experience what is on the other side of that, because it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take a long time. So be open to what else is possible, even if you're not sure what the path is, because I think when you are open to that, the path is revealed. It kind of shows up for you.
It kind of shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to connect with anybody who wants to go deeper into the conversation. Of course, I'm happy to talk to people about that.
Right. Yeah. And I know, and we will, and just for our listeners that are listening today or watching on YouTube, I'm going to post all of Russ's information in the show notes so that if they are interested in speaking with you more about that, I know you have a parent wellness assessment as well, that would be really great. And then you did say you have a free masterclass too, as well. Is that correct?
So what's free is the parent wellness assessment.
Oh, the parent wellness. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. That's right.
Yeah, the masterclass. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm getting all confused here. Turn around. Yes, there is a masterclass. Yes, it's a video. I would love for people to see that. Yes, that's good. I was so confused. I thought, so the InTune Parents course is what's not free.
Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah. Okay. I got
right. But the parent wellness assessment would that be a good first touch base or stepping stone for our audience if someone's interested in reaching out to you?
Absolutely. And if it's okay with you, I don't know if there's time for it, but I'd love to just talk really briefly about what that is, so people have a sense of
course,
what that means.
Yeah. If that's of course.
All right. Because I think it's important to be like kind of specific about what do we do on that and what is it about.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for that opportunity. I appreciate it. So it's 15 minutes only, so we make it really quick, and it's a Zoom meeting. And what we do is there's going to be three things that we cover. One is that I'm going to evaluate the conscious or the unconscious, maybe, strategies that you've been using to manage stress and overwhelm, like what's kind of going on. And then we'll discuss best ways to optimize these things so that you can feel more in tune with yourself. And eventually you're able to become almost, let's say, untriggerable in the most challenging moments. So we're going to kind of just look at these things, and I'll talk about how you can leverage them. The second thing is that we'll talk about how to make sure you are showing up as the powerful role model that you want to be, so that your energy can impact your family more effectively. We just talk a lot about that, right?
Yeah.
And then the third thing is I'll walk you through the process of exactly how you can implement the things that we're talking about to feel more centered, to feel more in control when things feel out of control, right? So that's what this is for. It's truly for me to connect and to serve people. Sometimes in the 15 minutes, that's all people need. They get enough information, they could go on their own, and that's cool. There's nothing that I sell on this call. It's not for me to sell anything. And if somebody would like my help with implementing the stuff that we talk about, then we can talk about that on a separate call, and we can discuss what it might look like to work
at a later time. Yeah.
Right. But that's not, I want to keep the whole thing of he's going to sell me. Everyone knows the pitch at the end. I'm going to sell you something. Here's the answer. You want to buy it? That doesn't feel good to me. So I don't do that at all with this one. It needs to be mutual. It needs to feel right and good to both of us. And to be really honest, that the people that I wind up working with are people that I don't need to convince. They already, I don't have to push or convince anybody. I don't like that. It doesn't feel good to me anyway. But if I need to push somebody or try to push them, that we're not a fit.
Right. Well, and we were talking about the free-flowing state of things, right? So that goes directly in line with everything that you're doing. How would you suggest that parents stay motivated and committed to their own wellness while caring for their children? Because I know we touched just a little bit on that, but how do you feel that parents can stay motivated?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first thing is make it a priority, right? Make sure that your own wellness and your own well-being is a priority, because it is important and you matter. It's not a luxury. It's not for some other time. It's not for, someday nice, it'll be nice when I can, but right now I have to take care of. That is all the feelings, but make it a priority. Make the peace a priority. Make sure that you have the right guidance and the right tools and the right support in place so that you can do this stuff. Seek out the right people, right? Don't do this alone. Find a great mentor out there and do what it takes, do what you have to do to work with them. I mean, make this a thing, make this a priority for yourself. Because I think if it's not that such a high level of commitment, it's so easy because of so many other things that we're dealing with. It's so easy to it's not really a priority. So how do you stay motivated? How do you stay committed? You decide that, and then you go get the help you need, whatever, if it's me or somebody else, but get the right help so that you're not doing it alone. That's really important.
Yeah. And that's such a good point that you bring up. And I think too, like for me, like I was just saying, it wasn't until a couple of years ago I started really delving into more of my own self-care with, meditation and, doing the things, going out for a mani-pedi or doing a little shopping or something that I enjoy doing, or even just reading. I mean, reading a book for an hour is like, if I can read a book for an hour, that's a record day, right? But I think too, initially in the beginning, it felt very unfamiliar to me and it felt very odd. And so I had to stick with it. And I think that happens to a lot of parents, that even if you do a little something for yourself here and there, you're like, yeah, that was nice. But you're so used to being stuck in the grind of what you're doing that you don't make that commitment of. So I love that you're saying make it a priority and to commit to doing it, because initially in the beginning, it felt really awkward for me. It was really very out of place.
Which is why, yeah, of course. And so it's nice to have some help. It's nice to have a friend to guide you through that and to help you be, very gently, respectfully accountable to that kind of stuff, because we need that. We need that. I talk about kind accountability a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like being held accountable, but if there was a friend who's helping me, it's like, hey, so that feels good. But when you do those things, when you go read a book and all those awesome things that you get to do, you and anyone listening, then I really would love for you to just let yourself be there. Like if the purpose is I'm going to go read for an hour, I can go do this. Like it's cool. I can do it. I'm covered. Then don't be mentally somewhere else. Don't be like fighting your problems. Like when you're doing the thing that's going to help you, like be with the book. Just do that. Be where you are. That's not easy. I know it's easier said than done. Right. But again, these are the kinds of things that we help with InTune Parents.
Yeah. And that was, like I said, that was always, now I can easily segue into that. But before it was very odd for me. I'd read a book and go, well, what did I just read? Because I don't know. But now it's almost like it's like a goal for me to get there, to get to that point so that I can go do those things.
That's great.
It's almost like, what do I need to do so that I can, so I can pay attention to myself a little bit more and be able to show up better for my family and for my friends. So, Russ, I greatly appreciate all the conversations that we've had over time. And I, for our listeners listening in today, Russ is just a wealth of knowledge. He has so much that he can help you with if that's something that you're interested in doing. Like I said, I'll post all of the information in the show notes for everyone. So please feel free to reach out to Russ if you have any questions, or consider taking the parent wellness assessment. I really think that would be super valuable as well. So thank you so much for your time and your energy today, Russ. I greatly appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This concludes our episode for today. If you have questions, comments, or even a show topic that you would like to hear about, feel free to send me an email at info@piecesformypuzzle.com. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you haven't already, and feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you like what you're hearing, please spread the word to others so we can help more in the community. And feel free to give us a good rating on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, keep working on your puzzle. And remember, you don't have to have it all solved in a day. Take care.